person has everybody's attention. All the pieces are either in place, or the mindset has been collected in such a way that this person can carry off whatever it is they're wearing. I didn't talk to William about clothes when we first got started. I said, William, can you do 25 push-ups? Mr. Moore, what are you talking about? 25 push-ups. So he kind of played with me a little bit, so I got down and did 50. He said, so what's this all about? I said, look, William, before we dress you, I have to get a good understanding of where you're coming from as a human being. Do you take care of yourself? Do you care enough for yourself that you put the right kind of food in yourself? So get down, do me 25. He struggled with it a little bit. And every day I saw him, before we even talked about it, William, do you push-ups today? I need to do some push-ups. You're taking too much time to answer. Then we went on to some other stuff. It's like, Mr. Moore, when you buy shoes, what should be the consideration? And I looked down at the shoes he was wearing. And I said, how do those feel? And he said, well, I guess, yeah, you guess they could feel better. He said, well, what about trousers? And I said, well, we'll go someplace and we'll look at trousers. What about shirts? We'll go someplace and we'll look at shirts. So the introduction to the clothing came far after a few other things. William, who are some of your favorite artists? Who are some of the favorite authors that you read? What do you look at when you're online? When you're standing in front of a group, how do you speak to them? He's also a member of Toastmasters. And gradually his whole Toastmaster thing began to change for him. Then he went to a meeting one day. This is after we went through all the other stuff. He went to a meeting one day. And some people walked over to him and said, so what do you do? He says, well, you know, I do this and do this and do this. Where'd you get your clothes from? He says, well, gentleman never tells me where he gets his clothes from, so I won't tell you where I got them. It's a reputable place. The deal is, not only did I learn about the fine points of fashion, but I actually learned to make clothes. So I went to dressmaking school. I did an apprenticeship in West Germany. I went to tailoring school. I did clothes for celebrities. And I noticed that people were looking for edgy stuff. So I asked some of the people in Los Angeles, and I said, who are the people that you admire the most when it comes to the way they look? One lady said, Katharine Hepburn. I said, now we're talking. Another guy told me, he said, Fred Astaire, Cary Grant. Now we're talking. So then I started asking people questions about what period of fashion they enjoyed the most. It was like the 40s and the 50s. Anybody here got any idea why the 40s and 50s were so popular with people and still kind of linger on? Got any idea?
Classic.
It was classic. What Cary Grant wore on the day he died could have very well worn at 25 years old. When you see photographs of Cary Grant today, Cary Grant is at the top of the heap. When you see photographs of Fred Astaire, at the top of the heap. And when you see photographs of JFK, died in 1963, he's at the top of the heap. It's all classic. In a pair of pants, and I'm going to ask a ladies question too. In a pair of pants, what's the rise? What's the rise in a pair of pants? Anybody? What's the rise in a pair of pants?
From the crotch to the waist.
So lady, answer that question. Lady, answer that question. What's the most disastrous thing about buying a pair of pants today? There's very little crotch. There's very little rise in a pair of pants. And that's all you can get when you go to buy clothes. So what's happening to the look of fashion is that everybody's beginning to look a lot the same. The individuality is kind of falling by the wayside. So how do you get to the point that you are the person that stops all the attention when you walk in? You got to be okay with you. You got to know what you're choosing to put on your body in terms of complexion, in terms of hair, size, you know, because a tall man wearing a little man's clothes, so it'll look fun. And you have to get away from costume, because today you see a lot of costume. The difference in a costume is that you probably wouldn't want to be buried in a suit that looks like Pee Wee Herman cut. And that's a lot of what's going on. So William got a lot of information from me. Now he walks into a room, people say that's one of the best dressed people there.
Mm-hmm.
We do a lot of things together. I work with the diversity officer at San Diego State. I'm going to be putting more workshops together for young people. I'm subtle when I do what I do. I don't come on heavy. But you probably be asked. If you can do push-ups or if you can run a little bit. Because I don't want to dress you and then have to buy different clothes in 4 months. Okay? Are there any questions? Yes,
So do you go and shop with people?
I shop with people. I also do various reconstructions for people. Some people want clothing from the past. So I go and I get clothing from the past and I reconstruct it for them.
Do you create clothes, custom clothes?
Yes, I do. I don't do it as much as I used to, but I do. Yes, sir.
In your opinion, given your many decades of experience, would you believe that the classic look can appeal to a wide audience of prospective business clients as you're working? For example, is the talk much about the millennials versus the baby boomers versus obviously people that are quote elderly and everybody in between? And I wondered if in your experience, it's not just dressing to look classic or for success, but it's dressing to best appeal to your audience. That's my common sense impression. Would you agree with that, or do you think you should simply stick to the formula of dressing classically? And if you're dealing with people who are 35 and under, they don't like the way you look, that's tough.
When we look at classics, we go to periods. 30s was a period. 40s was a period. 60s, that was a period also. And in each one of those periods, we changed lapels, we changed trousers, rides, waistband, things like that. When you decide to put your wardrobe together, you choose from a period. And you're going to find classic items in that period. Shirt collars, the height of the collar, cuffs, all of those things, shoes. There's a variety of shoes that you can purchase. You can purchase shoes that are long, with the pointed toes that turn up the equestrian kind of look. Or you can go back to the 40s and the 50s and get a nice cat toe, get a nice loafer. So when you choose from a period.
So let me give you an example, and excuse me for
It's okay.
interrupting you. 35 and under tend to want shirts, for example, that aren't tucked in. So now how do you, maybe there's classic looking shirts that are not tucked in. That may be my mistake. But,
When you get to the shirt, we're also talking about people not really taking care of themselves also. So the whole idea of a shirt outside of the trousers wasn't so much that it was a look, it was covering up something. So now what we have, we went from the big FUBU to a few other things. And eventually, we had people making shirts that were $400, $500, and $600 that would come out here, stop here, and really what they were doing was covering up handles. Then we look at a different phase of it where younger people are buying it, and the shirts are even tighter because what we're doing is showing off our physique. So there's a modest thing that goes along with being well dressed. Now, I don't argue with young people and other people who are into what's current, but I do say this, it's going to cost you. You want me to help you with that? I'll help you with that, but it's going to cost you. Because there's going to come a time when you're not really going to wear that. And when the season changes, Cary Grant never had to worry about the season changes. When the season changes, you're going to want to change with it if you want to stay with the season. So I talk about cost, I talk about what it is you're really doing with this, your colors, and things like that. But if you want something from a classic period, we got periods we can go with. Shirts would, that is a good topic.
Everyone, thank you, Fred.